befm 부산 영어방송.
The time is now 7 o'clock.
It's finally here. Election day. It's D-Day, and the polls have been open for an hour. All 300 seats in Parliament are up for grabs, and the election will determine which party will be in power for the next 4 years and how that may affect the National Assembly's relationship with the presidential office. Parties wrapped up their campaigning at midnight, and now it's up to you, the voters. Polls will remain open until 6 p.m., so let's get out there and do your civic duty for the country's democracy, for your democracy. I'm Catherine. This is Morning Wave in Busan on Wednesday, April 10th on befm, 부산영어방송. Good morning, wavers, all your early wavers out there. Welcome to our program. So, the day we've been building up to for quite a bit now, Election Day, it is here. Today is indeed D-Day. And the candidates, well, they are, supposed to be sitting still now, anxiously waiting for 6 o'clock, meaning 6 p.m. to come, because that means the next 11 hours will determine the course of the country's direction for the next 4 years. So this is indeed a very, very important day. Already, this election, it's been breaking records, and we've been talking about this, have we not? Both early voter turnout and overseas election turnout recorded their respective highest figures, showing that there is a lot of attention being paid to this particular election. The proportional representative ballot is also the longest ever, measuring in at 51.7 centimeters long. And now, the big question is whether the 22nd parliamentary election will break the 70% overall voter turnout, which no general election has ever done. Not yet anyway. So, any Korean citizen 18 years of age or older, born on or before April 11th, 2006, is eligible to vote. Remember that today, you do have to go to your designated polling site with a valid government-issued photo ID. And the thing is, everyone has different interests and needs, but, we all get one vote. Equal votes, right? So let's make your vote count. This is your vote. For our topic today, obviously, we're going to talk about you voting. By the way, have you already voted? Maybe you participated in early voting, or maybe it's 7:03 right now. You've already voted. Or maybe you're planning to vote today. When will you vote? And by the way, send us your 인증샷, proof of you voting. Remember, photos outside the polling station, not in. And for our overseas listeners, tell us how voting is conducted in your neck of the woods, in your respective cities or country. And also, yes, let us know what you're doing for the rest of the day. 자, 웨이버 분들 이미 투표하셨나요? 오늘 투표하실 예정이 있으신지, 그리고 투표 끝나고 일정, 마지막 여러분의 인증샷 또 함께 보내주세요. You can send in your messages, not your photos, your messages through our live stream, live chat on YouTube. Also, pound 9050. That's going to cost you 101. You can reach me for free on Kakao Talk. You can also send in your photos that way as well. And we have our app comment board too. Well, listening-wise, you can listen to our YouTube live in real time, watch us again on that same platform, and listen to us on the Patbang app. This is a very special day, so we're calling it our special election coverage. We have for you in hour number one special election report with Haley, and then Leon with a special edition of Fact Check. This is the election edition. In hour number 2, we have an entire hour dedicated to the election coverage. We're going to connect with reporters, correspondents across the country for real-time updates from right here in Busan, as well as in Seoul and Gwangju. And our special interview will be with Professor Kim Byung-ju, and we're going to talk about, of course, the election. I'll be back with today's headlines. It is now 7:05, and these are today's headlines. Polls opened at 6 a.m. this morning for general elections. The general election picks 300 members of the 22nd National Assembly, with 254 through direct elections and 46 via proportional representation seats. Doctors groups canceled joint press conference amid rift. The Korea Medical Association, KMA, and the Korea Intern Resident Association, KIRA, are showing signs of a rift over how to respond to the government's plan to increase the medical school quota. Yoon pledges 9.4 trillion won investment for AI. President Yoon Suk-yeol pledged to invest 9.4 trillion won into AI and AI semiconductors by 2027 and to create a 1.4 trillion won fund to support innovative companies in the industry. Putin to visit China within the year. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov is currently in China and met with President Xi Jinping, a part of the wider preparatory measures for Putin's state visit. European Court makes major ruling on climate change and human rights. The court said Switzerland's efforts to meet its emission reduction targets have been woefully inadequate. The ruling is binding and can trickle down to influence the law in 46 countries in Europe. These are today's headlines. Listeners, the polls have been open for an hour across the country, and on our Morning Wave in Busan election special today, we're going to connect with reporters across the country to see how different cities are looking right now. Of course, we're going to begin in Busan, where Haley, a reporter for Busan, she is out at a local polling station. Let's check in with her right now. Good morning, Haley. Where are you connecting to us from, and how does it look right now?
Good morning, Catherine. Good morning, listeners. I'm standing in front of the Design Council Busan building, which is serving as the fifth polling station for Udong in Haeundae district. It's actually not too busy, but I am seeing a steady stream of people, mostly walking, some are driving. They're all bundled up as it is quite a chilly morning here in Busan, mostly coming in singles and some couples. So that means if you go now, you won't have to wait.
Well, thanks for the real-time update right now. We're going to take a look at the election, look at the overview for Busan City. So what are the numbers we're looking at today?
Right. So first, starting with the number of eligible voters. For this year's general election, there are 2,882,543 eligible voters in Busan, and that's actually a decrease of about 75,000 from 4 years ago. And in terms of the gender distribution, we have slightly less men at 48.3% to 51.7% women. And in terms of age groups, we are a super age city. So the biggest age group was those in their 60s or older. They collectively account for 36%. And that's followed by 18.7% of people in their 50s. And that goes down the age group to 40s, 30s, and 20s. So by the way, over 55% of Busan's voters are over the age of 50. And then looking at some election districts, biggest and smallest, Dongnae district is the largest with 230,000 voters, and the smallest was Gangseogu at less than half of that, at 111,000. And the latest voter turnout, according to the National Election Commission, as of 7 a.m. was 1.4%.
Yes, indeed. So I actually just clicked on the refresh button. So for Busan right now, we're up to 1.6%. So that is the latest. So definitely it means, the numbers are moving up. We do want a high percentage of people getting involved in voting. Speaking of election districts, so there is a new election map for Busan City in place this year, correct?
That's right. So we're looking at two changes. So formerly, the Namgu district was divided into Kap and Eul precincts A and B. They've been merged into one district. So instead, Gangseogu district became its own election district, being separated from the Buk-Gangseo. So now Bukgu is divided into Kap and Eul as well. But because we did this whole add one, take one away system, overall there are still 18 seats in Busan for the 22nd National Assembly.
That's right. And our city, Busan, has become a major battleground for the respective parties. So what are some of the races we should really be keeping a close eye on?
Right. So traditionally, Busan has been a conservative stronghold. So 4 years ago, in the 21st National Assembly, back then it was called the United Future Party, the predecessor of the People Power Party. They won 15 seats to the Democratic Party's 3. However, there have been reports that the blue wave may be stronger this year. So we have, of course, the Nakdong Belt, and that's across the PK region alongside the river. The 10 districts across Busan, Yangsan, and Gimhae are the more progressive, or at least less conservative than the rest. So in Saha Kap district, we have the Democratic Party candidate Choi In-ho going against the People Power Party, or the PPP's Lee Seung-kwon. And then in the Buk Kap, we have DP's Jeon Jae-soo against PPP's Seo Byung-soo. In the Buk-eul district, we have DP's Jung Myung-hee against the PPP candidate Park Sung-hoon. And lastly, in the newly established Gangseo district, we have Democratic Party's Hyun Sung-won against the PPP Kim Do-up. And all of these are contentious areas. And actually, longtime listeners, and if you're interested in local politics, you may have noticed some of these are kind of household names, especially for the People Power Party. The ruling party has asked the incumbent senior lawmakers, including Kim Tae-ho, Seo Byung-soo, and Cho Hae-jin, to all give up their original districts to run in these contentious areas.
Right.
Right, and moving on to Yeonjae-gu, there is an interesting race here. The opposition parties sent a unified candidate, Do Jung-hyun of the Progressive Party, running against the two-term lawmaker, People Power Party's Kim Hee-jung. And also another district where a senior PPP lawmaker has stepped down is here in Haeundae Kap, where a DP candidate Hong Sun-an is running against PPP's Chu Ji-nu. And this is expected to be contentious as well. And also, we're keeping a close eye on Suyeong-gu district, where an independent candidate, Jang Hae-chan, is running against his former party's candidate, Jung Yeon-uk, as well as DP's Yu Dong-cheol. Chang's nomination was pulled by the ruling party after some controversial comments he made in the past surfaced.
That's right.
And lastly, we have the only race in the country where two current lawmakers, Namgu's Park Jae-ho of the Democratic Party and PPP's Park Soo-young, are going head-to-head. And this is happening because their districts were merged as one. So overall, pundits say that Busan City, not only just in this Nakdong belt, but also kind of what we call the smaller Oncheoncheon belt, and even in eastern Busan, there may be some signs of change. So in this election especially, moderate and undecided voters, as well as younger voters in their 20s and 30s, will be the key in whether we keep the status quo or see some change.
Yes, well, thank you for giving us what it feels like on site and for your thorough reporting. We'll see you back in the studio. Thank you, Haley.
Thank you.
All right, and now, listeners, it's time for your traffic and weather. It is now 7:13 on this election day, and not surprising, we don't see many bouts of congestion, not just yet, because it's 7:14 in the morning. As for the weather, it is currently 7 degrees Celsius under clear skies for a bit of a chilly morning on this Wednesday, but it will warm up quickly, and we're going to get all the way up to 17 degrees Celsius by the afternoon. That's according to the forecast, and maybe even 20 degrees Celsius in certain parts of the city. Perfect for an outing to maybe go to the polls first and then really enjoy this beautiful spring day. How about that? This was your traffic and weather. All right, to get the hearts pumping, this is Jump by Van Halen.
Nothing gets me down. You got it tough. I've seen the toughest around. And I know, baby, just how you feel. You got to roll with the punches and get to what's real. I can't just see this standing here. I got my back against the wrecking machine. I ain't the worst that you've seen. How can't you see what I mean? Might as well jump, jump. Might as well jump. Go ahead and jump, jump. Go ahead and jump. Oh, hey you, who said that? Baby, how you been? You say you don't know, you won't know until you begin. Can't you see me standing here? I got my back against the wrecking machine. I ain't the worst that you've seen. How can't you see what I mean? Might as well jump, jump. Go ahead and jump. Might as well jump, jump. Go ahead and jump. Jump. Might as well jump, jump. Go ahead and jump. Get it and jump, jump. Go ahead and jump. 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 Jump.
All right, listeners, the time is now 7:18, and as I am clicking on the refresh button, as I've been doing constantly this morning, the nationwide overall votes, we're standing at 1.8%. So what does that mean? Overall, we're looking at votes as of today, voting day itself, 788,192 people. Their votes are in right now. As of for Busan, we're looking at a 1.8 percentage right now. So that's looking at what we have, the information we have as of right now. All right, so welcome back to our election special coverage. So Busan City, of course, receiving so much more attention than ever, right? And why? Because the PK region, Busan City, we are considered kind of battlegrounds. Each high-profile politician who visited and campaigned in Busan brought their own pledges to develop the city. And so, first, along with Nakdong Belt, there is Gangso District, right? One of the youngest regions in Busan, as I say. And they're focusing on the World Expo. And which of the two candidates are more responsible? So I was thinking, the World Expo, what are we talking about? Not the future one, the one that we didn't get, actually. Which of the two candidates are more responsible for Busan falling short in the BIE vote? So it's kind of like, Judgment Day. In Namgu, the two sitting lawmakers are fiercely debating over the relocation of the Korea Development Bank. In Yeonje, party politics are at the highest level possible as the two candidates are vying for the moderate votes. We also have issues like the Kadok Airport, the Global Hub City, special legislation, and much, much more that could, of course, set the course for our city's development. And this election will certainly set the tone for the next 4 years here in our lovely city, Busan. Topic today, all related to the election because it is D-Day. Have you already voted? Whether it's early this morning in the, hour and 21 minutes that have passed, you maybe did the early voting, you're voting today, or you're planning to vote. So, send us your election 인증샷. Of course, you can't do it through our YouTube, but you can send it into our Kakao Talk. And for overseas listeners, tell us how voting is conducted in your respective cities and countries. That's what we're looking for today. And feel free to let us know what you're planning to do with the rest of your lovely spring day. 여러분은 이미 투표하셨나요? 사전투표, early voting 하셨으면 send us your 인증샷. We want to see. But of course, remember, keep in mind, not inside the booth, outside the polling station. Yes, what are you doing for the rest of the day? That's what we're looking at. People already checking in with us. It is a public holiday, right? I mean, it's a red day today. We have Leslie saying in Colorado, our Secretary of State has done an amazing job in expanding mail-in ballots, which is especially beneficial for rural areas of the state. Ballots get mailed out about 3 weeks ahead of time, and then you can either mail in your ballot or drop it off at your nearest ballot boxes, which are throughout the state. Oh, that's real convenient. And there's also Election Day in-person voting. The voting process is so easy. And then I like this one. You can also register to get a notice via text when your ballot is processed. How cool is that? So you know, my vote really did count. I like that. I like that idea. And I see hellos from some of our... Haley, she's in the studio, and we're going to get to News Digest.
Check this out.
This is Morning Wave Busan.
Everybody, wait a minute.
This is Morning Wave.
Morning Wave.
You are listening to
Morning Wave.
Morning Wave in Busan.
What show is this?
This is Morning Wave in Busan.
Here we go. Morning Wave in Busan.
It's time for News Digest, and we have Haley. Magically, she's back in the studio.
I power walked all the way back.
You did. I thought you teleported. No, for real though, thank you so much for going out, on the scene to get us a real feel of what's happening out on the street.
Of course, my pleasure.
Yes. All right, well, we're going to dive into more election news and go to the two major party leaders and their final kind of messages right before the vote itself today.
Right. So ruling People Power Party, or the PPP's leader, Han Dong-un, said that the official 12-hour period is open. So that was, of course, last night for the country. And that'll be the critical hour that decides the fate of South Korea. So he was appealing to voters to make a choice that will allow the ruling party to do its job, saying that every last vote count. And he stated, quote, "You don't want to be that one vote that didn't go to the polls and is responsible for, his words, ruining the country.
Oh.
And he actually has been going hard, but he had to cancel his remaining campaign schedule for tonight because he showed symptoms of dehydration and exhaustion. For the other side, the Democratic Party urged voters to deliver a stern judgment to the administration. It called the government incompetent, accusing it of significantly making the economy and the livelihoods worse. So the Democratic Party's leader, Lee Jae-myung, he was in court for most of the day, having had an 8-hour court appearance for his Daejangdong scandal. But for his last stop, he chose Yongsan as the final place for campaigning, an obvious target for the presidential office, where he criticized the government for mismanaging the country. And he claims that the Yoon government has caused regression in all aspects, ranging from the economy to livelihoods and national security and even democracy.
So, where these leaders have been, spending their time really does speak volumes about, I guess, the respective parties' strategies.
Right. So although they ended their campaigning both in Seoul,
Yes.
People Power Party's leader Han Dong-un focused his trips in the capital area as well as Chungcheong and here in the Nakdong Belt. So he visited Gyeonggi on nearly 40 occasions and Seoul on 30, followed by Chungcheong at 20 different campaign stops and also about 20 spots here in Bulgyeong as well.
Yes.
So he focused on these two so-called belts. First is the 반도체, the semiconductor belt, and also the Nakdong Belt. The semiconductor belt is across Gyeonggi's Suwon, Yongin, Hwasong, Pyeongtaek, and Icheon districts because they, of course, are home to some major semiconductor firms. And actually, these areas have 2 more seats added to them compared to 4 years ago. So definitely more at stake here. And then in Busan, Han Dong-un visited the Pukkap district along with Yangsan-il and Changwon-chine, which Changwon-chine, by the way, was a conservative stronghold, but some polls showed tight races for this year. And for the Democratic Party, Lee Jae-myung focused on the capital area, deciding to concentrate along the Han River belt, Dongsak-il, where his kind of personal pick, candidate Ryu Sam-young, is going up against Na Kyung-won. He visited there on 7 occasions, so that was the second most apart from his own district, where he's running against Won Hee-ryong in Gyeong-il in Incheon. He also made a full use of YouTube, virtually attending rallies in between his court appearances, and one of these visits, virtual visits, was for here, Haeundae Kap district.
Right. So very telling, like where, once again, the leaders, the politicians are headed to the lead up to today, of course. And as we've been covering, a big part of this election has been with smaller parties as well, especially focusing on the proportional representative vote. So what are they aiming for?
Right. So let's walk through some major smaller parties. The revamped Justice Party. We have the New Future Party, the Reform Party, and the Choguk Party, or the Rebuilding Korea Party.
Yes.
So the situation is actually desperate for the Justice Party, or the Green Justice Party, because currently it does face a risk of being pushed outside the parliament. So its senior member Kim Joo-woo yesterday apologized for and admitted to not living up to the people's expectations, but called for renewed support so that the party may take on the necessary reforms and also even with the smaller number of seats.
Yes.
Also, he and Sim Sang-jung got on their knees and pleaded for the votes earlier this month. And moving on to Lee Na-kyun's New Future Party had its election chair Oh Young-wan sweeping the country, targeting those in their 20s and 30s. And the party has its sights on at least 5 seats. And its chair, Lee Na-kyun, is running in the Gwangju City's Gwangsan-il district, as well as 3 other candidates in district spots.
Okay.
Moving on to the Reform Party run by Lee Jun-seok, and Lee is running in the Hwasong-il district with 2 other district candidates. And Lee Jun-seok actually ran a 48-hour marathon campaign, basically saying that he'd rather die than fail. So yeah, he hasn't been sleeping for 2 straight days.
Okay.
Choguk's Rebuilding Korea Party has been adding weight to the Democratic Party, claiming that the only people who are afraid of the DP and the other pan opposition getting over 200 seats are the president, the first lady, and the People Power Party leader. So the magic number in terms of proportional representation ratio is 3%, because under election law, parties that get over 3% in the proportional representative votes, they are assigned parliamentary seats, so they can enter the National Assembly.
Yes.
So looking at looking at 4 years ago, in the 21st election, apart from the major parties, satellite parties, the Justice Party back then took 5 seats, People's Party took 3 seats, and the Open Democratic Party 3 seats.
Ah, yes. So that's on the smaller party front. Well, we know that single-person households are definitely this, growing demographic, but, it's the rate at which they're rising, this group, that's really surprising.
Right, so moving slightly away from election issues, but, demographics is still kind of key in elections and what policies politicians should be targeting. So now, single-person households account for over 10 million over 10 million. So according to the Ministry of Interior and Safety, their resident registration statistics, as of last month, there were specifically 10,021,413 single-person households, biggest ever number, and now they account for nearly 42% of the total, which means basically 2 out of every 5 households are single-person households.
So right. I mean, the rise we knew, but when we look at the numbers right now, I mean, very, very stark compared to just a few years back. And perhaps we should look more into the age distribution because there is a huge difference between, for example, someone in their 20s living alone versus someone in their 60s.
Right, and their needs also differ. People in their 60s and above, health is a major key. 20s and 30s, perhaps safety. So lifestyles and concerns vary widely. So the senior age group, those between the ages of 60 and 69, were the biggest group living alone at 1.85 million.
Okay.
Followed by the younger group, 30 to 39. So this is likely due to career, 1.68 million. And also middle ages to elderly, 50 to 59, 1.64 million.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Oh, you okay?
I just choked on my own
Oh, okay.
air, breathing, saliva.
If you need water, drink water.
I'm
Okay.
fine. Let me just take a sip.
Yes, please take a sip because Haley has been reporting like nonstop, getting you the most up-to-date information. So let's give her a little bit of time
the
to
irony
recover.
of breathing and choking. So
Yes.
I'm okay. Broken down by region, Gyeonggi and Seoul, being the biggest in terms of population, they naturally had the highest number of single-person households. By gender, more men lived alone than women. So that's also interesting.
Yes.
So smaller households, and we're not just talking about one person, but 2-person households are on the rise. On the contrary, larger households of families of 4 or higher on the decline. So the government sees that this is due to the rise in various seniors living alone as well as younger people not really getting married and choosing to live alone.
Yes.
So therefore, they're looking into necessary policies like housing support and meeting their basic needs.
So now, we also want to talk about women in the workforce here in Korea. So tell us about this.
Right. So quick summary, the number of women who are working reached almost 10 million for the first time last year. However, South Korea's gender age gap, the biggest in the developed world. Still. According to Statistics Korea, there are now 9,997,000 women working wage workers from last year.
Okay.
That's the highest since record-taking began in 1963. This is 17.4 times the figure from 60 years ago.
Yes.
Women now accounted for 45.7% of the workforce, also the highest ever. Number of self-employed and female business owners went up as well to 1.7 million. Although that figure exactly is not the highest ever, the ratio is still the highest at 30%. So overall, economic activities among women are now the most robust than ever.
But then we have to go back to that gender wage gap.
Right. So according to the latest figures, Statistics Korea Sustainable Development Goals report, as of 2022, the gender wage gap between men and women was 31.2%. And that was highest out of all 35 OECD member nations. By the way, the OECD average was 12.1%. And here, South Korea was the only country whose gender wage gap was above 30 points.
We don't want to be number one on this list.
No, and second place was Israel at 25%, followed by Japan at 21% and the U.S. at 17%. Now, looking at the other end of the spectrum, Colombia had the smallest gender age gap at 1.9%.
Really?
Right, followed by Norway at 4.5%, and then Denmark and Italy.
Yes.
But what's really interesting is how people viewed the reason for this gender wage gap existing. So this is a survey from the Korea Women's Development Institute. a lot of men saw the reason for women making less as because women are cutting their career short for childbirth and child care, and therefore they worked fewer consecutive years than men. So that reasoning was 40% of why men thought there was a wage gap. This was interesting. A quarter, 25% of men surveyed thought that this was because women avoided hard work in companies that would have paid them more.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that what men are thinking?
25%, well, only 25%. And then 22% thought that this was the result of accumulated sexism in the corporate process.
Oh, so almost
yeah.
an equal number of men saw it a different way.
Completely different ways.
Okay.
What about women? Nearly 55% of women attributed this to the accumulation of sexism in corporate culture.
Yes.
51% pointed to fewer years on the job due to family. Only 6% thought this was because women are working easier jobs or taking the easy way out.
Interesting.
Interesting indeed.
Yes. Well, today is all about like figures and numbers and statistics, it seems, because it's election day. But thank you so much for all the news, and we'll check in with you in hour number 2. Thank you. No? Yes?
Yes.
we will.
Yes.
Wager. It's there. Yes. All right. So we'll check in with you real soon. Thank you, Haley.
Thank you.
All right. And checking on the figures right now real quick. Not much has changed in terms of the percentage. Overall, the nation, it stands at 1.8%. Busan, on par with the national average, sitting at 1.8% as well. All right. We're going to take a short song break. Here it is. This is 벌써 1년 by Brown Eyes.
너와 만든 기념일마다 슬픈 날을 찾아와 처음 사랑 고백하며 설레 수줍음과 우리 처음 만난 날 지나가고 너의 생일에 눈물에 케이크 촛불 켜고서 축하해 I'll believe in you I believe in your mind 벌써 1년이 지났지만 1년 뒤에도 그 년 뒤에도 널 기다려 보고 싶어 돌아와줘 말 못했어 널 보는 따뜻한 그의 눈빛과 미래에서 느껴진 반지보다 빛난 네 얼굴 때문에 I believe in you I believe
welcome back, everybody. It's time to talk about our text topic. We're talking about whether you have voted already. If you have, send us, one of those cute 인증 shots. You can send them to our Kakao Talk board. And if you're planning to vote, let us know about that. Don't tell us who you're voting for. We don't want to know, and we're not going to announce it. And what are you going to do for the rest of the day? 자, 우리 웨이브분들 이미 투표하셨는지? I know some of you did early voting. Send us your 인증샷 and maybe let us know when you're going to vote today and what you're going to do for the rest of the beautiful spring day. And I'll be back with our hot clip. For today's hot clip, I want to cover something that, yes, I know it has come and gone, but what many people got so emotional about, the total solar eclipse in, we have the clip from the U.S., so let's listen to a clip from CBS News.
That solar eclipse that captivated so many of us across the country yesterday afternoon. Almost all of the continental U.S. saw at least a partial solar eclipse, and many millions found their way into the path of totality where the moon blocked out the sun and cast that shadow across America. We were there from Texas all the way to Maine to capture the excitement, and I could not contain myself.
Standing by. 1 minute till totality.
Oh my goodness. It just got really, really dark here.
I am getting a chill right now. The wind is starting to blow.
There's Venus.
After finding the path of totality, solar glasses at the ready, millions of Americans looked up in wonder.
There it is. Look at the ring. Look at the ring. There you go.
Wow. And the heavens sure did deliver.
Put that in a science book, but these kids got to see it firsthand.
In small-town Kerrville, Texas, the clouds parted just in time for totality.
We can see it! We can see it!
The gloom also lifted when it mattered in Niagara Falls, New York.
I cannot believe we're seeing this right now. It has been cloud cover all day. How lucky are we?
It is a miracle.
It's incredible. Do you see the corona? Yes! See the sparkling lights?
And while darkness lasted less than 4 minutes,
She came back.
the experience for first-timers like me now lives forever.
For days, I've been asking people what it's like. Now I've seen it, and I ask myself, I can't even describe it.
A moment of awe shared by so many of us together as one.
It kind of feels like we're bonded to everybody here. Like we just went through something together.
Yes.
But I don't know these people, but like I feel some special
Some connection,
connection to them.
I have never seen anything like this before.
I don't want to wait another 20 years for it to happen again.
I feel like it'd be cool for like us to tell the future generation that we saw it and like what it looked like.
So, some of the reaction, like the really, really over-the-top reactions, those were the reactions by the various reporters and correspondents that were watching. Some of them were like crying. And I know this is like a momentous occasion. I think the next one's going to happen like in 20 years from their vantage point. But and by the way, tomorrow we're going to have a special interview on this very topic, so you can stay tuned to that for that. And I'll be back with Leon in just a moment. It is now time for hashtag fact check. We have Leon in the house. Good morning.
Good morning, Catherine.
Oh, are you okay? You got like the 눈 out. You're good?
Yeah. Apparently, I don't look okay.
No. We're just teasing you because it is election day, and it's kind of a day for normal folk.
Yes.
Like non-broadcasting people to kind of like
just relax.
I think
I kind of wanted to be towards that side in the morning because it's hard waking up.
So I do want to ask you, don't tell us who you voted for, but like, did you vote? Are you planning to vote today?
Oh, I have not voted yet.
Yes.
But as I'm getting out of the studio today,
yes,
I'm thinking of going straight to the polling station.
Yay.
So I have my ID card and everything ready.
You're good to go.
Yes.
All right. All right. So what are we going to be? I know we have, it's a kind of an election special.
Yes.
In terms of even hashtag fact check. What are we checking?
All right. So let's fact check some common questions and concerns regarding voting procedures.
Okay, here we go.
And so first up, I want to talk about the 투표 인증샷. Or,
the ones I'm asking for, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So people are posting photos on their SNS to verify, to show that they had cast their votes.
Yes.
Did you, Catherine, see people on your SNS, people verifying their voting?
Well, I did see some photos.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do they do it?
Like they were outside the polling station.
Outside the polling station.
Which I think is the rule that we need to follow.
Yes.
And I didn't see many thumbs up or like the V or anything like that this year. But I did see people who were just posting, like, for example, like, you know, Haley with her cute little kind of. She had a pre-made. She's so MZ, right? She had her pre-printed cute little thing, and then like I guess you get the little stamp or something, and then you can stamp on it. And then that becomes like kind of your injunction shot. It's like so trendy these days.
Wow, that is trendy. I don't know the trend, but that's a lot of work.
We're too old, yeah.
That's a lot of work. Pre-printing stuff.
I know. We're too busy for that. Yes.
The way that me and my husband always did it was put the stamp on the back of our hand and then just pick a picture of that. That was like the best that I could do.
Okay.
But anyway, so there is the rule for, you know, taking photos at polling stations. So that's what I want to talk about first. So, you know, snapping photos outside the polling center is generally allowed.
Yes.
But you guys have to remember that capturing images inside the polling station is definitely a no-no according to the Election Commission.
Right.
It's because sharing ballot photos on social media or elsewhere can lead to hefty fines or even imprisonment.
Ooh.
So violators are punishable by up to 2 years in prison or a fine of up to 4 million won. So to avoid any legal trouble, you know, keep those cameras tucked away, at least when you enter the polling station.
That's right. And especially in the booth. That's a big no-no. All right. So let's talk about the age for voting.
Yes.
So let's talk about the youngest. Who are our youngest eligible voters this time around?
All right. So with the recent amendments to the law, 18-year-olds are now eligible to vote.
Yes.
However, they must have already celebrated their 18th birthday by Election Day, which is today, to cast their ballot. So if you're a high schooler and your birthday falls before today, like if your birthday was
yesterday,
April
right?
9th, yes, it's okay for you to vote.
Okay.
I also want to address the concern of working voters as well, people who are still working on the day of Election Day. No one should worry about missing out on voting due to their work commitment. The law mandates that employers grant their employees adequate time to vote, whether during the early voting or on Election Day as well. And for those bosses' failure to comply could result in hefty fines as well.
So if you're a boss, make sure to, you know,
Let
let
them
your
know.
employees, give them leeway to go out and vote.
Yes, of
Okay?
course.
Be a good boss. What about bringing children into the polling booth? So I remember, I think Haley was telling us something about there's a certain age,
Yes.
right?
So children under elementary school age are, you know, they're welcome at the polling station, though only preschoolers are permitted inside the voting booth. So you can take the preschoolers inside with you. Just be mindful of their behavior to avoid disrupting other voters.
Right, because we don't want like kids being like getting lost or getting snatched
Right.
or bothering other people while you're voting.
Yeah,
right.
I can imagine preschoolers like jumping into those booths because they think it looks like a small tent or something.
Right.
It can
Not
get pretty,
so.
Right.
Now, I know that the polls close at 6 p.m. So is there absolutely no way to cast a vote after that time?
That's not true, actually. As long as you're in line, when the clock strikes 6, you're good.
Oh, okay.
So you still have the opportunity to cast your ballot. The polling station, what they will do is maintain a waiting list and ensure that, you know, every eligible voter gets their chance to vote no matter the time.
But you got to be in line by 6.
By 6.
Got
That's
it.
the key point.
Okay.
And when you cast a ballot, you may wonder, what if my stamp is smudged during the folding process? I mean, do I get to have another ballot? There have been reports of voters trying to, dry out the ink before folding them to make sure the ink doesn't smudge. I think that's why some people, they seem to be in the booth quite long. It's like, it's just 1 second, right? But people have actually been like blowing out on the paper
To dry?
To dry because they're afraid.
Right.
And the Election Commission's position on that is that even if the stamp smudges, the vote is still valid as long as the party can be identified.
Okay.
It also makes a point that, the ink dries fairly quickly, so there is like little chance of smearing.
So you don't have to
voters
worry.
don't have to worry.
You don't have to blow on it for that long.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So also, what are you supposed to do if you, let's say, accidentally voted for the wrong person?
Yes. So you only get one ballot per person. And if you have accidentally put a stamp on the wrong candidate, you cannot ask for another ballot.
Okay.
What you can do instead is to invalidate your vote by putting a stamp on another candidate as well. And it's important to note that you should never rip up your ballot just because you cast a ballot for the wrong candidate.
Because?
So, according to Article 244 of the Public Offices and Elections Act, defacing a ballot is punishable by imprisonment for up to 10 years or a fine of up to 30 million won.
Wow.
And there are actually real-life examples of this punishment.
Really? So I want to hear about the real life, examples because I'm just saying, like, for ripping up a ballot, it sounds kind of extreme. Like, some of our crimes, there's no sentencing for, like, up to 10 years.
Yes.
Or a fine of 30 million won. So give us
Right.
some examples.
Okay, so during the early voting session last Saturday in Jeju Island, there was a man who tore up his ballot to ask for a replacement because he had voted incorrectly. And
Okay.
he is actually now not facing imprisonment, but he is facing up to 30 million won in fine.
Oh, my gosh.
So what happened was the Jeju Island Election Commission said it had filed a police complaint against a voter who violated the Public Offices Election Act by tearing up his ballot during the early voting. According to the Provincial Election Commission, on the second day of early voting, the man had allegedly asked the early voting clerk to replace his ballot before placing it in the ballot box at an early voting center. But when he was told that the ballot could not be replaced,
Yes.
he tore it up on the spot and defaced it. And so that is why he's facing the charges. And all right, for our last fact check in relation to the general election day today.
Yes.
Have you heard about the myth that high early voter turnout means higher probability that Progressive Party will show favorable results on election day?
Right. So even our expert from yesterday said, generally speaking,
That
tends to, if you look at the statistical numbers,
Okay.
that could be the general trend. But of course, there are many exceptions.
Okay,
Is how
okay.
he phrased it.
Okay, then, well, because he's an expert, my take on it was, that it's look at the fact. It's not always necessarily true,
Right. Because he did say, it's not always, it's obviously
Right.
not 100%. Yes.
So, the myth stems from the idea that, early voter turnout boosts the actual turnout, which is a sign for younger generations who tend to have lower voter turnout to be more engaged. That's why that's what the myth stems from.
Okay.
The Korea Daily, they analyzed early voter turnout and election results over the past decade. And, they found that rising early voter turnout did not necessarily lead to a particular party's victory, like the Progressive Party.
Yes.
The 2022 presidential election is a recent example of that.
True.
In the 20th presidential election, early voter turnout reached a record high of 36.9%. But it was not Lee Jae-myung of the Democratic Party of Korea who won the election, but it was Yoon Suk-yeol's of the People's Party that won. So
That's true.
Experts point out that there is no significant correlation between early voter turnout and a party share of the vote.
Interesting. Well, anything else, to summarize our fact checking for today? What would you say?
So to summarize, everybody, before heading to the ballot, remember that
Yes.
not to take photos of the ballot at the polling station, inside the polling station. Do not rip it up, even if you cast the vote for the wrong candidate.
Okay.
Just invalidate it by putting a stamp on another candidate. You can take your child to vote to the polling station, and even if they're in preschoolers, they can actually go into the booth
right.
with you as well. Also, you can still vote even if you arrive at 6 at the polling station. As long as you're in line, you're good.
Yes, yes. All right. Well, thanks for breaking it down for us today, and we'll definitely check in with you next week. Thank you, Leon.
Bye-bye.
All right. Well, as Leon leaves and she goes to vote on her way home, we're going to get to this song for hour number 1. Remember, in hour number 2, we are going to be connecting with correspondents in Seoul and also Gwangju, and our special interview will be, of course, covering the election. So stay tuned for much, much more. Here's our final song for hour number 1. What Can I Say After I Say I'm Sorry by Frank Sinatra. Enjoy, and I'll be back at 8.
What can I say, dear, after I say I'm sorry? What can I do to prove it to you that I'm sorry? I didn't mean to ever be mean to you. If I didn't care, I wouldn't feel like I do. I was all wrong, right or wrong, I don't blame you. Why should I take somebody like you and shame you? I know that I made you cry, and I'm so sorry, dear. What can I say, dear, after I say I'm sorry? Baby, I'm so doggone sorry. Got to prove that I'm so sorry. I made you cry, and I'm so sorry, dear. What can I say, dear? What can I do?
Your Bridge to the World. befm 부산 영어방송.
부산의 축제 어디까지 즐겨보셨나요? 과거와 현재, 미래가 공존하는 항구도시 부산. 이곳 부산은 계절을 물들이는 다양한 축제로 늘 풍성합니다. 봄의 시작을 알리는 봄꽃 축제부터 부산의 여름을 만끽하는 바다축제, 전 세계 영화인들이 모이는 부산국제영화제와 새로운 시작의 해맞이 축제까지. 부산의 축제는 우리의 열정을 가득 담고 있습니다. 바쁜 일상은 잠시 뒤로 하고 특별한 시간을 선물 받는 바로 이곳 부산에서 우리의 삶은 축제가 됩니다. 축제로 하나 되는 부산, 여러분은 어떤 축제를 기다리시나요? 이 캠페인은 대선공익재단과 befm 부산영어방송이 함께합니다.
혹시 지금 운전 중이신가요? 어린이 교통사고 피해자 수는 지난 3년 평균 약 9만 명. 특히 어린이 보호구역 안전기준이 강화된 이후에도 어린이 보호구역 내 사고는 지속적으로 발생하고 있습니다. 스쿨존에서는 반드시 시속 30km 이하 서행, 스쿨존 내 불법 주정차 금지, 차량 출발 전 앞뒤 좌우 살피는 습관으로 어린이가 안전한 도시를 만듭니다. 참, 운전 중 휴대전화 사용은 모두에게 위험합니다. 우리 모두를 위한 교통안전, 나부터 실천하면 모두가 안전해집니다. 어린이가 안전하게 뛰어놀 수 있는 부산. 아이 키우기 좋은 도시는 우리 모두의 미래이자 희망입니다. 이 캠페인은 어린이가 안전한 부산을 만드는 은행, B&K 부산은행과 함께합니다.
The weather is so nice today. I'm sure this won't be a big deal.
A 3-second long lapse in judgment can burn up an entire mountain, which will take 100 years to recover. We can protect these lush forests if you follow these guidelines. First, do not bring flammable materials to the mountains. Second, do not cook or camp in the mountains. Third, do not litter cigarette butts. Your small actions are the first step towards protecting the beautiful forest. This campaign is brought to you by befm 부산영어방송.
보이스피싱에 눈을 뜨시오.
공약미를 대출해드릴 수 있을 것 같아요. 근데 수수료를 좀.
보이스피싱 전화 올 땐 전화 끊고 확인하기.
실장님의 계좌가 금융범죄에 연루되었습니다.
기관 사칭 사기 전화 112로 신고하기. 택배 주소 오류 사기 인터넷 주소 클릭한대.
늘 의심하고 꼭 전화 끊고 또 확인하고.
보인다 보여.
수법이
보이는구나.
눈을 뜨면 예방책이 보입니다.
공익광고협의회.
The time is now 8 o'clock.
It's morning.
And what a lovely morning.
Dynamic Busan.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hello, Shelly.
What show is this?
Hello.
Hello, baby.
Hey, buddy.
Hello, everybody.
Live from Korea's dynamic city, this is Morning Wave in Busan.
It is 8 o'clock and this is news highlights. Polls have opened at 6 a.m. this morning for general elections. The general election picks 300 members of the 22nd National Assembly, with 254 through direct elections and 46 via proportional representation seats. Rival parties were in a showdown until the very last minute yesterday. The ruling party condemned the opposition as shameless, and the Democratic Party criticized the government for its mishandling of the economy and governance. Minor parties have also made their final appeals on the final day of the election, criticizing the current two-party system. Polls close at 6 p.m. today, and joint exit polls by the three public networks will be announced on their respective channels at that time as well. Doctors groups canceled joint press conference amid rifts. The Korea Medical Association, or KMA, and the Korea Intern Resident Association, or KIRA, canceled their scheduled joint conference amid signs of a rift over how to respond to the government's plan to increase the medical school quota. The KMA made the announcement yesterday, saying that they need more time for negotiations with the trainee doctors. There are even internal issues within the KMA, whose emergency committee is seemingly at odds with the newly elected president. The presidential office has said that it is open to discussing alternatives. Yoon pledges 9.4 trillion won investment for AI. President Yoon Suk-yeol pledged to invest 9.4 trillion won into AI and AI semiconductors by 2027 and create a 1.4 trillion won fund to support innovative companies in the industry. During a meeting on semiconductors yesterday, the president compared the current semiconductor competition as an industrial war, adding that the government will review incentives for investment to obtain a war situation response, promising bold support measures fit for the domestic environment. Yoon also vowed to support Korea to become one of the global top 3 countries in AI technology. Putin to visit China within the year. The Russian foreign minister announced on Tuesday local time that President Vladimir Putin will visit China within the year. Russia's foreign minister, Sergei Lavrov, is currently in China and met with President Xi Jinping, a part of the wider preparatory measures for Putin's state visit. The ministry said that Xi highly praised the two countries' relationship and expressed willingness to develop their partnership and strategic cooperation. Putin is due for his fifth inauguration on May 7th, and this visit to Beijing may be his first state visit in the new term. European Court makes major ruling on climate change and human rights. A group of Swiss women have won the first ever climate case victory in the European Court of Human Rights. The women, mostly in their 70s, said that their age and gender made them particularly vulnerable to the effects of heat waves linked to climate change. The court said Switzerland's efforts to meet its emission reduction targets have been woefully inadequate. The ruling is binding and can trickle down to influence the law in 46 countries in Europe. And this was News Highlights. All right, listeners, yes, it is D-Day once again, finally the day for the April 10th general elections. And at this time, voters, you may have been heading out to the polls, the polling stations nationwide to cast your ballots to decide the new 300-member National Assembly. So the turnout for early voting, of course, wrapped up Saturday and hit a record high of more than 30%. And those who missed that opportunity, of course, you have the chance to vote today. What we're going to do now is connect with our freelance reporter, Chu Ji-hyun, who is in Seoul for the latest. Let's say hi. Good morning, Ji-hyun.
Good morning, Catherine.
Yes. So first of all, can you tell us where you are and tell us what's been happening thus far today?
Sure. So I'm currently located at a polling station in Yeouido Yeongjungpo District in Seoul for the 22nd general election day today, where Koreans will decide on who will make up the General Assembly. And as today is the most important date in the political calendar this year, I am seeing a steady stream of people calmly heading into the polling station as we speak to cast their precious votes early this morning, just 2 hours into the official election day. Now, for the figures, this is as of 8:02 a.m. The turnout is standing at 4.1% across the country and 3.7% for Seoul across a total of 2,257 polling stations right here in the capital. And the early voting turnout rate that closed last week for Seoul was recorded at 32.63%, which was even higher than the figure of 31.3% across the country. And heated last-minute electioneering unfolded last night with parties wrapping up their final showdown with calls to vote and woo citizens. Each party chose their venue to highlight their election promise for the very last time. And key party officials leading the election gathered for their finale. As for the People Power Party, PPP leader Han Dong-hoon traveled across the city's contested districts, and the final rally took place in Cheonggye Square in Central Square, Seoul, the symbol and center. For the main opposition Democratic Party, party leader Lee Jae-myung concluded at Yongsan Station. Now, Seoul is going to be the key battleground. And we have heard about the Hangang Belt, which describes the highly contested areas. And according to the surveys, these areas will be a key barometer in terms of determining the election results. And we will be keeping a close eye on these areas as well as broader Seoul.
Yes. And so as we await these numbers, when can we expect the final results to be out?
Yes, Catherine. The vote counting is expected to begin around 6:30 p.m. tonight at 254 polling stations nationwide. The National Election Management Committee anticipates that we will be able to see the sketched numbers around 2 a.m. when the vote count is expected to reach approximately 70 to 80%. However, in areas with significant gaps between the candidates, the announcement of these winners may come even earlier, while in tightly contested regions, obviously, it's expected to take more time for the outcome to be determined. So around 2 a.m.
Yes, yes. So, of course, some of us are going to have to stay up late into the night to watch those figures come in. So, anything else that eligible voters out there need to keep in mind today, as today is such an important day?
Right. So voting today will take place from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. at polling stations nationwide. Of them, again, 2,257 are located right here in the capital. During the early voting period that took place last week, voters were able to cast their ballots at any polling station in the country, as long as they had with them their IDs. But today, a gentle reminder that you can only vote at the polling station designated by the National Election Commission. So voters should check their designated polling stations on the NEC's website. And you'll need to, of course, bring a piece of ID issued by the government that shows your date of birth and your photo, like your passport or your driver's license. And this can include the new mobile identification, but images stored through the screen capture will not be accepted. And lastly, although we are in an era of social media, it is prohibited to post photographs shot inside the station. However, citizens do have the green light of doing so outside. And lastly, observers are viewing the 48 constituencies here in the capital as the primary battlegrounds that will possibly determine the election outcome, as data also suggesting the results here in the capital often mirror the overall election results. And of those 48 seats up for grabs, 12 seats are really classified as the neck and neck for this election. So we'll just have to wait until we see the numbers and eagerly keep an eye for the figures right here in Seoul. And that is all I have for this hour. This has been Chu Ji-hyun reporting live from Seoul. And back to you, Catherine.
Thank you so much for your thorough reporting. We do appreciate it. Thank you, Ji-hyun. And once again, now we're going to get our next report. Now we're going to turn to Yoo Eung-tae from GFN. He is a journalist in Gwangju Metropolitan City. Let's see what he has to say on the situation there. Good morning.
Good morning, Catherine.
Yes, Tae. So can you give us a brief rundown? What's the current situation at the polling station where you are right now?
Sure. I am currently at a polling station set up at Jangsan Elementary School, located in Jueol-dong, Namgu, the southern part of Gwangju Metropolitan City. The polling station started to let voters in from 6 a.m. and it'll stay open until 6 p.m. today. As for the voter turnout, it's still rather early in the morning, and you might be able to hear some birds chirping around me. In the past 1 hour or so, I've seen a little over 30 voters so far, mostly senior citizens. A couple of them appear to be in their mid-30s. And after talking to some of the voters here, the common denominators were two things. The physical length of the ballot and the number of political parties running for proportional representatives. So this year, voters are given out two ballots, one for a district legislator and the other for proportional representatives. And many were surprised at how long the second ballot was. It's over 50 centimeters, which is around 20 inches. And if you hold it out, the ballot is as tall as a small child.
Wow. So, yes, we can get the visual from what you're saying. I mean, it's quite long.
It is.
Yeah, right. So some people are really commenting on that. However, considering previous general elections, this is actually not the first time that we're seeing this long of a ballot, correct?
No, it's not the first time. You're right. But this is a record-long ballot for sure. In the last general election back in 2020, the ballot for proportional representatives was 48.1 centimeters. And at that time, it did set the record. But this year, that record has been broken with the 3-centimeter longer ballot. And why longer? Because we have more parties running for proportional seats.
That's right.
Yes, we know that today we are electing 300 members of the National Assembly. And out of the 300 seats, 46 seats have been allocated for proportional representatives whose ballots are counted towards parties rather than individual candidates. Well, this system is designed to better reflect voting results and offset bias towards a handful of strong runners.
Well, thanks for explaining thoroughly the reason why we're having these proportional representatives and the long ballot. So, Tae, you did mention that you're in Namgu in Gwangju. So, can you tell us more about the City of Light in the context of today's general elections?
All right. So the situation in Gwangju, in a nutshell, today's election will boil down to this. Gwangju and South Jeolla Province, for that, the expected landslide victory by the main opposition Democratic Party versus an unprecedented twist with a dramatic win by the ruling People Power Party. And here is the rundown. Gwangju is traditionally known for its leftist leanings. The city is one of the strongest footholds of the main opposition Democratic Party. And out of Gwangju's total population of 1.5 million, around 80% or 1.2 million are eligible voters for today's election. And according to a pre-election survey conducted by local news outlet Mudeng newspaper along with Career Research between March 30th and April 1st, in all of the 18 constituencies throughout Gwangju and South Jeolla Province, Democratic Party candidates were expected to lead the race by huge gaps, followed by the ruling People Power Party candidates.
Okay.
And taking a closer look at four major battlegrounds, including Gwangju Dongnam-il and Gwangju Gwangsan-il, which are the eastern and northern districts of Gwangju, surveys predicted that the Democratic Party candidates led the race by even wider margins, which is why the main opposition party is showing confidence, though cautiously, to clean sweep the Gwangju and South Jeolla region, securing the entire 18 seats allocated for the region.
I see. So thanks for getting into the details of what's happening in your neck of the woods. So anything else you want to add before I let you go today, Tae?
Well, sure. It happened to be that where I am right now, here in Namgu, the southern part of Gwangju, the number of voters account for over 10% of Gwangju's ballot. That is around 176,000 voters. And as I mentioned, Gwangju is an undisputedly left-leaning city. However, one of the constituencies in this Namgu area is Bongsan-dong, which earned its nicknames such as the Manhattan of Gwangju or Daechidong of Gwangju. Which means the area is socioeconomically at a higher bracket, as well as it is so-called its education fever running high. And that explains why this Bongsan-dong area is considered one of the most conservative in Gwangju. We could say a black sheep of Gwangju. And although, yes, that has not been able to stop the winning streak of the progressive in Namgu and Gwangju since 1996.
I see. Well, thank you for giving us a real feel of what's happening in your area. And we're going to have to say goodbye to you, but thank you so much for your thorough reporting, Tae. We do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Catherine.
Absolutely. So thanks once again to Jihyun and to Tae reporting in and checking in with us from Seoul and Gwangju. Looking at the percentage of votes right now as of 8:17. And by the way, I'm getting my figures from the National Election Commission website. So nationally, 4.2% of the votes are in. And by the way, you know the early votes, the early voting, that will be reflected later on at around 1 p.m. is what I understand. So the website will reflect those votes, the percentage of those votes, later on at 1 p.m. once again. Here in Busan, 4% is what we're looking at right now. All right, so I will be back in just a moment.
안녕하십니까. 부산에 살고 있는 만 21세 대학생입니다. 투표는 4월 10일 선거 당일에 할 예정이고 일반 국민으로서의 권리이자 의무라고 생각하기 때문에 투표는 계속하고 있습니다. 총선 이후에 현재 전공의 파업 이슈에 대해서 새로운 합의점이나 대안이 나올지가 기대가 됩니다. 20대가 정치에 관심이 없다는 얘기가 많은데 저희 또한 투표의 중요성과 정치에 대한 관심도에 대해서 경각심을 가지고 있습니다. 다만 교내 커뮤니티에서 대학생들에게 필요한 생활 밀착형 공약을 걸었던 후보를 뽑자는 이야기가 많이 언급이 되었습니다. 그만큼 후보들이 너무 거시적인 공약보다는 생활 밀착형, 실제로 나에게 와닿는 공약을 제시해준다면 후보자들이 시민들의 생활을 면밀히 관찰하려 노력하고 공감해준다는 점을 응원하고 투표에 반영할 생각이 있습니다. 현재 정치인 중 일부는 SNS 릴스나 쇼츠를 활용하여 유행하는 챌린지를 소화해내고 젊은 층에게 많은 인기와 화제성을 얻고 있습니다. 이처럼 소위 MZ세대는 어떤 현상이나 자신의 세대에 다가오려는 노력에 대한 반응이 즉각적이고 자기 선택의 주체성이 드러나는 세대이기에 정치인들이 먼저 저희에게 공약으로든 소통으로든 관심을 가져주신다면 20대들도 그에 보답하지 않을까 조심스레 말씀드려봅니다.
안녕하세요. 저는 38살 부산 남구에 살고 있습니다. 저는 사전투표를 완료하였습니다. 저는 5인 이하의 사무실에서 일을 하고 있어서 투표 당일 날은 출근을 하기 때문에 사전투표를 할 수밖에 없었습니다. 5인 이하 업종에 있는 직장인들한테도 제대로 된 노동법 적용이 되었으면 하는 바람에 투표를 하였습니다.
반갑습니다. 42살 사성구에 살고 농산물 도매업을 하고 있는 사람입니다. 농산물 쪽이다 보니까 투표날 저도 쉬지를 못해서 그래서 사전투표를 하게 되었습니다. 민생 경제가 많이 어려우니 사상도 마찬가지고 전국에 계신 모든 분들이 민생경제 국회의원 당선이 되면 민생경제에 대해서 조금 더 잘 살 수 있게끔 하는 마음에서 투표를 하게 되었습니다. 농산물 도매업을 하다 보니 이번에 대파 이슈라든가 우리나라 농산물이 전 세계에서 제일 비싼 1, 2등 하는 품목들이 많던데 꼭 정부에서 좀 잘 좀 해서 서민들 잘 먹고 잘 살 수 있게끔 해주셨으면 참 좋겠습니다.
네, 부산에 사는 60대입니다. 투표 당일 여행을 가기 때문에 사전 투표를 했습니다. 제 나름대로 자기 자신을 생각하지 않고 정말 나라를 위해서 주기를 원하면서 투표를 했습니다. 제 마음은. 지금 생각하는 문제점은 너무 편파적으로 가지 않았나, 가고 있지 않나 생각이 들기도 하고 좀 더 객관적으로 나라가 발전하는 모습을 보여줬으면 싶습니다. 당선인에게 바라는 마음은 우리나라를 위해서 좀 더 우리나라를 잘 이끌어 나갈 수 있고 국민을 생각하는 사람이 당선이 되었으면 하는 바람입니다.
I'm an expat who is currently residing in Suyeonggu in Busan, and I've lived in Korea for over 11 years. Although I cannot influence what leaders are chosen in a direct way, there are other ways of making sure that my rights are respected and my opinions are heard through various outreach and other services offered to non-citizens who live here. In addition, I have many Korean friends who are citizens here, and through communicating with them, I can come to understand the reasons for voting for various candidates, and I might be able to offer them a perspective that they hadn't considered and possibly influence their viewpoint to some extent. As an expat that works in the education sector, one area that I'd hope would be addressed in an effective way is the role of the declining Korean population on many aspects of South Korean life, but mainly sustaining the need for school resources and educators. I think that creating policy changes now versus later for something like this that affects the future is the prudent choice.
The voices of you, the citizens out there. And just in case you didn't catch all of that, interviews with citizens, sound bites of people across a wide range of ages, from young to, someone in their 30s, middle ages, and even an expat going on air with us to let others know what's important to them. And one thing that really stood out to me was the whole idea of, policies that will affect us, like in real life, how it's going to help us economically, to go about our daily living is something that really, caught my ear. So Anyhow, I'm so glad that people are speaking up and getting the vote out, and that's why it's so important to exercise your civic duty. All right, I'll be back with our special interview. The 22nd National Assembly General Elections began 2 hours and 23 minutes ago. This is officially Election Day here across the country. And of course, we know early voting apparently very popular because we're talking about a record 31.28%, yes, of eligible voters. They turned out. Also with the overseas voting as well, very, very high. So the expectations are especially high today. Major parties, minor parties, all fighting for a seat, for those seats to represent you, the people. So we have invited Kim Byung-ju, former diplomat and now affiliate professor at Hankuk University of Foreign Studies, to go through the details of this particular election. And of course, the importance of why we need to vote. Here we have him. Hi, Professor. How are you?
Very good. Thank you. Good morning.
Yes, yes. So thus far, I know we don't have a lot of the numbers in, the exit polls. That'll be announced later from the major broadcasters. But do we have a feel for the projections for the number of seats each party is likely to take?
There are many different talks, but really this is very close election, and the major parties are competing very competitively. So any projection with any level of confidence, with greater level of confidence, would not be something that would be reliable. But I guess some of the numbers that major parties accept as their own position or projection comes like this. For example, the Democratic Party, the opposition Democratic Party that currently has controlled the legislature.
Yes.
They're saying they are probably ahead in about 110 districts altogether. By the way, we're talking about 253 different districts around the country. We have in total 300 seats, and 47 of them are proportional representation, and the rest, 253 or so, they are district-based, and out of those, the Democratic Party has been saying that they're probably ahead in 110 of them, plus minus. And the PPP, People Power Party, the party of President Yoon,
yes,
they are saying they are probably ahead 90 in 90 of the districts. So what that makes it, what that comes down to is about 55 districts where they are kind of neck and neck. So when Democratic Party says they're ahead at 110, and if they win all 50 districts where they're neck and neck, it can go up to 160. And then PPP, People Power Party, they're saying they're ahead in probably 90 districts. And if they win all of 50 or so seats, they can win up to 140 or so. So those are the math. But then again, as I mentioned, nobody really knows at this point. In Busan, Ulsan, Gyeongnam area, where
Yes,
the broadcasting is coming, they're just saying in total, there are about 40 districts. And they're saying, Democratic Party is saying they're neck and neck in 15 of them. PPP saying 13 of them, and they're about the same number, I would say, like, somewhere between 13 to 15 districts. Really, you cannot tell until the last ballot is counted. So very tight race pretty much everywhere.
yes, yes. And I think that's why the stakes seem even higher this year because many of the races, as you say, are so tight right now. Can we look at some of the key pledges that have emerged from particular candidates?
Well, I wish we could say that we had pledges on how to improve the economy, how to strengthen Korea's future competitiveness, global scale,
Yes.
How to improve our ways of dealing with the falling birth rate and and ways to deal with the national pension system and ways to deal with the current confrontation between doctors and the government. I wish we had heard some convincing positions on those policy fronts, but everybody agrees we haven't really. This is supposed to be about people's choice, about making choice regarding where we as a national community is heading. In deciding that, we need policy choices, but we haven't had much of it. And we do understand the election and campaign has been mostly about judgment, mostly about condemnation, mostly about hatred here. And of course, it's a given thing that we need law-abiding, ethical politicians.
Yes.
The thing is, accusations that have been flying both directions, right? The opposition saying this is a referendum on the sitting president, and then the ruling party saying this is a referendum on the sitting opposition party leader. This is about people. This is about characters and their accusations, their wrongdoings, and sad to say, but I guess we have to accept the fact that this campaign has come down to a race where we, the voters, have to choose the side that we dislike less.
Yes.
So it's too bad that we haven't heard about much debate about the policies and directions of the nation and so on.
Right. And I do agree with you, Professor, that, if we had heard more about the policies, people would probably be a little less frustrated instead of having to choose between, a candidate that I dislike versus a candidate that I really dislike, which seems to be the case for many voters today. Right. So considering the high stakes that are involved in this election, and we really saw the record turnout during early voting. What are the implications of this? Does this tell us anything? The fact that people really want to vote, or is this just like a fluke? Just, high number of voters.
Yeah. Right. The highest rate we saw in early voting, as you mentioned, for, general election, selecting lawmakers. But in terms of, just little caveat here is that in terms of presidential election, we had a higher rate for early voting last time.
Yes.
And that, when we elected President Yoon, the turnout at the, early voting was higher than what we see this time in general election here. But that didn't mean that total turnout was record high. Actually, total turnout was slightly lower than the previous record. So just a little caveat is that having early turnout at a high level doesn't necessarily mean that we will have total turnout to reach record level. But I do understand there's a great likelihood of it, though, even though there's no guarantee. And looking back, what happens is, believe it or not, about, let's say, 16 years ago, 2008, at the national general election, the turnout rate was lower than half, 46%.
Yes.
And that's surprisingly low rate, less than, 1 out of 2, less than 50% of voters came to vote in 2008. But the thing is, since then, the turnout rate has been going up and up and up every time when we have national general elections. So last time, 2020, turnout was 66% altogether. And yes, indeed, I think many people are expecting the turnout rate to be this time higher than 66% and perhaps hit the record this time. And what this means in terms of high rate of turnout at the early voting means, used to mean young people with young families, wanting to plan something on election day for family vacation or something and trying to vote early on so that they can secure a holiday. That used to be the interpretation. But these days, what's interesting is even elderly voters, early voting has become so easy, so convenient.
Right.
Elderly voters, people with old age, now find it convenient to vote. So used to be high turnout for early vote means advantage for Progressive Party, which is usually supported by the younger people. But nowadays, I guess that guarantee no longer really kind of exists.
Yes. And considering the potential outcome of, whatever we find out later on in the wee hours of the night into early morning tomorrow. How do you believe the political landscape and governance in South Korea might change? Do you think there's going to be a shift, or do you think it's going to be much of the same?
Yeah, depending on how you break down the scenarios, there could be 5-6 different scenarios existing, or very roughly speaking, maybe 3 different scenarios existing. I'm going to go with the latter because we have to manage time here. But what they're saying is, first, number one scenario is kind of not exactly, but kind of maintaining the status quo right now. Like right now, the previous National Assembly, in the National Assembly, Democratic Party opposition used to control like 168 seats,
yes,
as opposed to People Power Party 112. So maybe possibly keeping numbers kind of similar to that. And Democratic Party, most of the polls, I guess, we don't want to get into specific polls, but most of the polls have been showing Democratic Party is ahead. And so Democratic Party winning the seats close to the previous National Assembly, 168, whatever, that's what some people see as scenario number one. In that case, things will remain about the same, right? Like, President Yoon's government has been complaining that they have not been able to implement their policies into laws because of this, situation at the National Assembly, and that could remain the case. The supporters of the opposition like the fact that actually opposition party could do a strong balance and check against the government. They liked it, so that could be one scenario. The other scenario is the Democratic Party winning big. Scenario number 2. In that case, depending on their size, but if they go all the way to like 200 seats or close to 200 seats together with other progressive parties, they can talk about maybe constitutional amendment, or even, as some of the radical candidates have been talking about, impeachment of the president. That's going to be a very dramatic case if Democratic Party wins landslide close to 2/3 of the votes. And the third rough scenario would be, People Power Party winning big. And in that case, of course, the supporters of the Yoon government will be happy to see the government being able to push through many of their policy initiatives and making them into laws. And, the opposition party leaders facing troubles and so on. That's a possibility for the last third scenario.
Right. And as we wrap up our discussion for today, because I know we're going to have you on tomorrow to go over the results, because we're going to get them really late or early morning tomorrow. Why is it crucial for all eligible voters to get out there and vote?
Well, simple. Democracy is just as smart as its people. So rather than demanding and asking the politicians to change, we, the citizens, have to take in action. And I know many of us here looking at the ballots, we're not extremely happy with the candidates, but still in making our choices, and we're not happy with the party leadership to begin with, but even our district candidates, we're not totally happy with them, many of us. But the thing is, in making our choices, rather than going with this partisan politics of hatred and judgment, we should probably focus on finding the smartest, most capable person with integrity, good balance in consciousness, selecting the right person to represent us. These are the people who are supposed to represent us. So we have to put extra efforts into making our representative to represent us properly. So it's a hard choice, but I think we should invest time and efforts to make the right choice. All of us, each and every one of us.
2 things that really stood out to me of all the many things you said today, Professor. Democracy is as smart as its people, and a good balance of consciousness. We're going to wrap up our discussion for today, but of course we'll check in with you tomorrow. Thank you so much, Professor.
Thank you very much.
This was Professor Kim Byung-ju, and with his vast experience in this arena, as a former diplomat and now as a professor, we look forward to tomorrow's interview where we're going to go into the nitty-gritty of the different scenarios that he kind of played out for us. We'll see which one, I guess, is we're going to be going with for the next 4 years. So stay tuned for that tomorrow. All right. With that, let's take a little breather. How about this? Together by 잔나비, and then I'll be back in just a moment.
다른 품던 그 말로 멋진 옷을 지어 입곤 텅 빈 방에 누워 잠이 낮았지 이름도 모르는 꽃에 내 멋대로 붙여본 꽃말 손대지 말아요 그저 눈으로만 바라봐요 나는 너의 음악이고 그런 마음 한 줄이야 때가 되면 내 마음에 시퍼렇게 남을 거야 기다림은 저 별의 빛 우주를 건너는 너에게 하고픈 말은 하루에 딱 반씩 접어 몇 밤 더 지새면 달까지도 가는데 천번을 접어야지만 하게 되는 슬픈 사연 전동 같은 한숨 타면 너의 곁에 떠오르나 나는 너의 음악이고 그런 마음 한 줄이야 때가 되면 내 귓볼에 찬란히 매달릴 거야 기다림은 저 별의 빛 우주를 건너는 되면 내 마음에 축제처럼 열릴 거야 기다림은 저 별의 빛 우주를 건너 우주
You're now listening to the world's most reliable morning show, Morning Wave in Busan with Catherine. Text in to BEFM # 9050 for 101. You can also reach us for free through our YouTube live stream or on Kakao Talk. Begin your morning with Catherine, and don't forget to reboot your day after lunch. Stay tuned for Steve Hatherley Reboot every day from 2 to 4 p.m.
It is now time to check in with Haley. And today, it's all about the election. Obviously, if you haven't figured out, if you're tuning in right now, it's okay. It's all about the election. It's issue wa글와글 election style.
Indeed, yes. We have a lot of wa글-worthy election
and by
issues.
the way, you kind of made a magical appearance after after we connected with you.
I didn't teleport.
Yeah, no.
No, I
teleporting.
wish. But thankfully, the polling station that I was at, Busan Design Center, is like 2 buildings over from our
Literally.
station. So
Yes.
I could just, well, I could have walked, but I drove. I was also.
You drove?
Oh. You guys, stop looking at me. And
You
could I,
drove from our station to 2 buildings over?
Shh, I don't want to talk about. Well, okay, guys, it was windy. It was for the sake of the call
진짜요?
of the quality. 진짜예요. So I was in my car reporting because do you really want to be like, this is Haley from the Busan Election Center?
Okay.
Yeah,
That's what you meant. I was just like,
no, I have legs. Guys, I run.
I know, I was going to say, you
I
run. Okay. So, by the way, right now, national election polling, it's sitting at 4.8% of your votes are apparently in. And remember, 1 p.m., that's where the early votes will be added. And then we'll get a more accurate number. And we won't get the results until wee hours of, tomorrow morning, technically, probably. Yes.
Oh, I'm not sleeping. Well, I'm waking up early. I am sleeping.
Go to bed.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what do you have for us?
All right. So first, with every election, there are election theories, some verging on conspiracies.
Yes.
And others lead to insurgents of certain countries' capitals. Hopefully, it'll never be that way for us. But accusations of voting fraud, especially early voting fraud, they're back. So the former chair of the United Future Party, so I'm not just going on social media and citing random people, but this is the former chairperson of the United Future Party, the predecessor of the People Power Party, who posted accusations on his social media. So by the way, for reference, this individual, he has had to step down as the chair because he was defeated in the last general election in his district. So he's been kind of arguing for voter fraud ever since 4 years ago. So in this 10-minute video, which also has been circulating online, you see a National Election Commission or NEC official in Eunpyeonggu district in Seoul, as well as 2 monitors, each recommended by the ruling and opposition party, putting in mailed-in ballots from outside a district from early voting into the ballot box. This is what they're supposed to do.
Okay.
But the individual questions, how could there be so many outside the district ballots for one district for the workers to basically inject these ballots for over an hour? But there could be. There's no solid evidence to corroborate this.
Right.
He also raised accusations that voter count by monitors and the NEC system counts were different, accusing ballot stuffing and other theories.
What about the National Election Commission, the NEC? What has this organization had to say about this?
So they downright reject these accusations for being groundless, and they have reasons for this. So number one, they emphasize that the counts and the transferred are monitored by the people who have been nominated by the 2 respective major parties.
Okay.
Also, the police. So they say that the monitors from specific sites actually counted wrong. And, actually, if you do go, I went for early voting, if you go to the polls, they will scan your ID. So they actually have your ID on file to see who voted when. So the NEC count is, of course, the correct one, as they literally have your information on file.
The information,
Yes. So the National Election Commission said that there were actually 126 lawsuits from the 21st National Assembly election on grounds of accusations of voter manipulation, election fraud, and others. But the court found every single one of these 126 to be baseless. So they were turned
So
down.
they went through all the accusations.
Right. So we
That's
don't
good.
just, transparency, this is a democracy. We do address them through the judicial system.
As it should be.
And, they were turned out to be false accusations.
Okay.
So to the other accusations of ballot stuffing, the NEC said that, these accusations distort the facts and the images of election fraud. And they're actually extremely dangerous acts because they can discourage people from voting and mobilize public opinion.
We don't want voters to be disenfranchised, meaning like, oh, my vote's not going to count.
Right. So what's the point of voting?
Exactly.
There is definitely a point to voting.
All right. Next up, although there's this principle of confidentiality inside the polling station, some people do dress in, I guess, like a specific color or carry like a little something to show their support for a particular party or candidate. And so while average citizens, are free to do so, but, just to let you know, Haley and I, we've been kind of doing our utmost to really wear neutral, hence we didn't even say, but we're wearing neutral colors. And we've been trying to do so for the past few days, right?
Right,
Leading up
right.
to the election because, I love the colors of the rainbow. But,
I look real good in certain colors.
Yeah, I look.
We both
good
do.
in blue and red, but
Right.
we've been avoiding those colors. But it's a bit different according to public opinion for like well-known people, celebrities.
Right. So we're by far away from celebrities, but we are
Yes.
also on public broadcasting.
Yes.
And so in Korea, it's considered almost taboo for celebrities to kind of express their political affiliation, which is quite different from, say, Hollywood, for example. So actress Kim Gyuri specifically is the latest subject of such controversy. So on Saturday, she posted a photo on her social media after she voted early, informing people that early voting goes from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., so encouraging people to go out and vote. So the photo, we should mention, was not a selfie. It barely had her, the person, in it. So
Yes.
she took a photo of her hand with the voter 인증샷 stamp. But she also took it in front of a window, so there is a part of her reflection that's kind of vague on the glass in front of her, and you see that she's wearing a hat, a mask, and a part of her shoulder, and she's wearing a jacket, a jumper, we would call it.
Okay.
But some media outlets claim that she was wearing blue.
Oh.
But it appears bluish. But anyways, blue, of course, being the color of the Democratic Party, and they interpreted this as her supporting the DP. So the thing is, though, previously this actress, she actually changed her name, so you might want to look her up on portal sites and whatnot. But
Right.
you'll recognize her. She was very well known from the 90s and the early 2000s.
Sure.
So she gave an interview very recently saying that she had been a victim of political framing cast upon her because during the former Lee Myung-bak administration, she made some comments about mad cow disease, and she says that she was kind of blacklisted officially or unofficially because of that. So due to this, some conservative politicians have condemned her.
I see.
But after these reports, she posted again on her social media saying, so reporters, and she actually named specific sites that said that she was wearing blue.
Okay.
How can you be sure of what color I was wearing? And you'd better take responsibility for this. And she claims that she'll take legal action against these false claims, as well as any other malicious articles following this incident.
I see. Well, so it's a sensitive time right now,
And I do, on a more humorous note, I do see kind of the 인증 shot of Idols specifically, and I can't remember the name of the team, but there's a member with bright red hair, and in all of those voting photos, he's wearing a black beanie. And
to
it's
cover it up.
To cover up, and there are memes of people, posing in front of cameras, doing thumbs up or V's, and they have other members just silently reaching over and putting their hand down and be like, "Don't do that." So that's to say, they're real careful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Well, along those lines, the NSC ruled that you may not bring leeks, tepa, or large green onions into the polling station as a symbol of political protest. But apparently people are getting creative. These people are smart.
And I think this is a symbol of democracy that we can make fun, satire, parody.
It's called political satire,
exactly,
right?
and
Yes.
of whatever either side, both sides, either sides. So people are bringing creative green onion-esque things.
Okay.
So one social media user brought a green onion-shaped pen, and they say, "Well, I brought this instead of the real thing."
Okay.
Others were a headband in the shape of green onions. Someone got really crafty and knitted a green onion out of yarn. Biggest case,
Wow.
someone tied 2 green onions to their car's wipers.
Oh, they're windshield wipers?
Yeah, windshield wipers and put them up.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
People are creative. Right. All right, next. This election has been really particularly heavy in terms of mudslinging and personal attacks, as opposed to the issues, just like Professor Kim just said right now, a little while ago. There's a lot of mudslinging. So let's go through some of the mudslinging.
So, my personal opinion, I think satire by the general public, it could increase interest in politics. However, when there are flat out attacks, mudslinging from politicians, then I think that's when people become disenfranchised.
We get turned off.
Right. So
Yes.
verbal attacks were so common during the election and continued until the very last day. So Democratic Party's Lee Jae-myung said that he dreads what will happen if those people referring to the ruling party will get the majority in parliament. And he actually even teared up during a press conference before he appeared in front of the court for the Daejangdong scandal. And to the tearing up, People Power Party's de facto leader Han Dong-un said that these were not tears of repentance, but, quote, dirty tears of a cry for help, unquote. So, and then we addressed the 대파 issue, and now there is the 삼겹살 or pork belly issue. So, accusations that there was a photo of Democratic Party Chair Lee Jae-myung after a campaign rally. He went to a pork belly restaurant, which is kind of considered, the
commoner kind of
the
common people's
right. Although,
food.
I mean,
even pork belly is expensive.
Everything's expensive
Right.
these days. However, some people claim that there was beef on his table. So was he getting
like
special
소고기.
treatment? Right. So the PPP criticizes as him kind of cosplaying or pretending to be a so-called average person. So following this, Han Dong-un and the PPP candidate Won Hee-ryong, who's running against Lee in Incheon, went to the very same restaurant and ate pork belly. So it's a bit of political performance.
Yes.
But, the thing is, though, we could kind of roll our eyes and laugh at this, but this
Yes.
comes immediately following some calls for, self-reflection and politics of partisan hatred, as Professor Kim Young-ju mentioned, because we did have physical violent attacks on DP's Lee Jae-myung and PPP's Bae Hyun-jin.
Oh, yes.
And we also do have to remember that after today, the parties do have to work together in the parliament to better the country, hopefully. But, yeah. So will they stop fighting?
I don't know.
I'm not holding
Will
my
there
breath.
be handshaking afterwards? Probably not. Well, we'll see what the results are tomorrow. But thank you so much for all your hard work and try to get some sleep before you.
Yes,
have to
and
actually-
we'll be back with our results show tomorrow.
All right. Thank you, Haley.
Thank you.
And with that, oh goodness, I don't even know where the 2 hours went. Such an exciting day because this is a day where the average citizens, you get to have your say. So I certainly hope, if you haven't done so, I do want to encourage you once again to go out and vote. And with that, let's say goodbye. This is Location by Khalid. Have a good day. Bye, everybody.
Send me your location, let's focus on communicating, cause I just need the time and place to come through. Send me your location, let's ride the vibrations. I don't need nothing else but you. At times I wonder why I fool with you, but this is new to me. This is new to you. Initially, I didn't wanna fall, but you gathered my attention, it was all for you. So don't take advantage, don't leave my heart damaged. I understand that things go a little bit better when you plan it. Oh, so won't you send me your location? Let's focus on communicating, cause I just need the time and place to come through. Send me your location, let's ride the vibrations. I don't need nothing else but you. I don't wanna fall in love off a subtweet, so let's get personal. I got a lot of cool spots that we can go. Tell me what's the move and I got you. I'm only acting like this cause I like you. Just give me the vibe to slide in. Oh, I might make you mine by the night. Then ship me your location. Let's focus on communicating, cause I just need the time and place to come through. Send me your location. Let's ride the vibrations. I don't need nothing else but you. Ride, 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 come and vibe with me tonight. I don't need nothing else but you. I don't need nothing else but you. Ride, 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 come and vibe with me tonight. I don't need nothing else.
Your Breaks of the World. befm 부산영어방송